Oh,
did we get volume
Yeah,
in that?
it's
'Cause
through.
I didn't
It's
have it
going
my
on.
side.
we are live. Let's
All right,
go.
we are live. Sorry, we're having just some weird technical difficulties. What really feels like a Monday is actually happening to us in studio. We're all in different places right now. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Evan is up in New Hampshire at his new place, and Benny is over at the Graham's house right now working on the show. Anyways, we're gonna bring you an incredible show. It feels weird, like I feel like the music is running through my head, but it never actually played.
No.
But we're presented by Cosmic Disc Golf tonight. Go check them out at cosmicdg.com. And we got a pretty awesome episode coming up tonight. We got Robert Burridge joining us later on this show around 8 to 8:15 or so. He's going to be joining us for a live interview. We're going to do some stat or fiction with him. Then we're also going to talk about the Des Moines Challenge. We're going to talk about our own personal tournaments. I think all of us played in a tournament. There was tons of things going on this last weekend. And then just kind of talk about what's going on in the disc golf world today. So I guess first and foremost, we should say congratulations to intern Ben taking down a tournament this last weekend at the Capital Discs Open in the AM2 division.
AM2. Let's do it.
AM2
In a playoff.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
So, basically, I'm Nick's curse. Nick's my good luck. So, we'll get into that later. But I was down 5 strokes going to round 3, and I just played really hard. Shot -4. The leader shot even.
What was that rated, Ben?
960 something, I think.
963 in a New England MA2 event. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Or
It
actually,
felt
Northeast. It was New York, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I did the same thing Nick did to force a playoff. I had to hit circle's edge putt. It was a huge putt for me. I don't make all of those all the time, so that was electric. Went to a playoff. We both threw OB. Then the guy I was playing with, Ray, he threw OB again. So I was able to win, and it felt great. And I worked really hard to get to this point, and I hope the success continues. And feels great that I finally won an AM2 tour, and the biggest one, 3 days. Felt great.
There you go.
let's go. And speaking of playoffs, I mean, we got so many this weekend, but Nick, hit us.
I went to another freaking playoff this last weekend.
Same
and
tournament.
Decided to take my record and go from 2-6 in playoffs to 2-7. I lost in another playoff after an epic 4 holes actually against Dylan Horst. I had a very lackluster final round, which was pretty disappointing. But I hit. I birdied the last 3 holes to even force the playoff. He played an absolutely stellar round the final round. And then I hit probably about a 45-footer on hole 18 in front of everyone.
Electric.
To force the playoff.
Absolutely
which
electric.
Was pretty sick because everyone went kind of ballistic. And I got some really, really cool snippets of like people sending me videos of it, which was pretty cool. Anyways, we went to a playoff. We both parred the first hole, and then we went birdie on holes 2 and 3. And then arguably what I think is the hardest hole in the course, 2 birdie. It's just really janky, kind of par 4 up the hill, but really kind of like hard to get your disc in a really good landing zone. He executed 2 really good shots and put himself to like 15 feet. I took a very easy 4, which in the round is not bad at all.
Very good.
And he took a 3. So ultimately he took it down, which, is kind of a bummer because one of the things that I love about tournaments is trophies. And this is like second place number 6 for me this year, which is hella annoying because that's 6 trophies that I didn't get this year. And the last like 3 or 4 of them have actually been really cool trophies. And so my apartment in Virginia is still just kind of empty because my end of the year right now has been lackluster, but it was wicked fun. I had an incredible time. I actually ended up cashing my biggest weekly kind of like paycheck from disc golf when it comes to tournaments. So second place took home $1,500. So shout out to Capital Discs for that tournament, just because $10,000 out of cash at a B tier is pretty nuts. And that property that they had out there is absolutely insane. One of my favorite things about the weekend was one of my favorite players when I first started getting into the sport, Steve Brinster. And I actually got to play 2 rounds with Steve Brinster this past weekend. And even though he's, in the MP40 division, like he could actually play MP40 but still plays MPO majority of the time. He's still a filthy good player, and had a couple, like he had the sick eagle and just had some incredible shots. He's just such a fun player to watch, and really, really cool guy to hang out with. So, and then shout out to anyone who bought a disc for me this past weekend. That was super cool. A ton of people came up, bought my Nick Carl discs, and they're all with me, headed out to Worlds right now. So hopefully out in Kansas, people want to buy some as well.
Let's go. But hey, before the tournament, you also played in a skins match. Am I right?
I did. So
how'd that go?
So I'm gonna back up a little bit more, because I'm gonna talk to you about 2 incredible days that I had out in Chicago, Illinois.
Yes.
I went to the White Sox game 2 days in a row. I got to see the White Sox win 2 days in a row. I got to watch our boy Dylan Cease pitch, which was the absolute coolest thing. We got to sit in the box seats, which was sick. Paul got to throw out the first pitch, and it was just electric. Like, the stadium that night when it was Cease versus Verlander was absolutely packed, way more than the first day that we had went there. Just an insane amount of people, insane atmosphere. We were all having a great time, and then afterwards we all went out to dinner. Super, super cool. And then right after dinner, it's about 11:30, probably 12 in the morning at this point. Everyone's like, oh, we're gonna go back to the hotels, chill out. And I was like, well, I gotta get out to New York, and I've got about a 14-hour drive or 13-hour drive, something like that. I was like, I'm gonna make my way out to New York. So I drove right after going to the White Sox game, and I got probably a quarter of the way there before I felt like I needed to pull over and just kind of like take a nap for a little bit. So long story short, I ended up getting into town at like, I don't know, 7:30 p.m. or so by the time I stopped, because I would usually, I'll stop at a restaurant like a Texas Roadhouse or something if I can find one, get a nice dinner, or get a late lunch, something like that, just to make sure I don't have to like eat a ton on the road. And so I ended up getting into town at like 7:30. So I get to play a couple holes, kind of got dark really quick, and then I slept for the night. And then the next day I had to practice the 2 different courses that we were playing. So I played 2 full rounds, one on the south side, one on the north side. And then I went and played the skins match, and I just remember after like being in a car all day and, pretty much all night at that point, when I went to play the skins match, my body was just toast. And so everyone was throwing really good shots. Like Wiggins was obviously throwing further than everyone. Brinster was just lacing lines, and a couple of the guys, everyone was throwing good shots. And so I would try to do these massive like power forehands or throw in these massive putts, and long story short, I got skunked in the skins match, so I didn't get a single one.
Oh man.
There was like 2 opportunities for me to really get one. I birdied one of the really hard holes with an absolutely filthy forehand that probably went like 200 feet further than anyone else's drive, but Brinster ended up piping just this incredible upshot to park the basket and actually almost skip in. He apparently hit the basket on a second shot. And then when I threw mine, I ended up having to hit like a 30-foot putt because I rolled down the hill a little bit. But that was really the one opportunity that I had to get a skin, and we ended up pushing that one. So
well, that should bring you to the caddy curse that I've given you.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it. It's
So I caddied for Nick for the skins match, 0, whatever. It happens. Nick kicks me off the bag. He's +2, kicks me off the bag first round. No, I think he's +1, then kicks me off.
So first round starts out. Then he hits me up. He's like, "Yo, you wanna caddy?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, come on down. Like, come hang out for a bit." And same with my buddy Ryan. Like, both of them just want to kind of like hang out, watch the round. And I just started off hella slow. Like, the second hole in the course is literally a 220-foot hole, and I doinked a 25-footer. Yeah. I don't even know if it was 25 feet, to be honest.
I did the same, dude. I did 10
honest to goodness, I rarely, excuse me, right now, I feel like I rarely miss circle 1 putts. And when I miss a wide open one like that with really not that much wind, that is just such like a kick in the junk to me, to where like, I know I don't throw far, and I know on some of these holes I'm going to have to throw far. And I took the shortest hole in the course and literally missed a birdie putt on it. And so now I'm like, come on, like, what the heck? Hole 3 comes up, and I throw an okay forehand. I get it to circle 1, but it's like a straight uphill putt. I doink the putt. I don't get it high enough, so I literally just hit the front of the cage, and it just drops and sits. and then I go par. So I'm even through 4, when realistically I should be at least 2 down through 4.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I bogeyed hole 5 and I bogeyed hole 6. Hole 5 is a really hard par 4 that is like stupidly impressive if someone does get a birdie on it. And then hole 6 is a relatively easy par 5 if you throw a good drive. And I went bogey on it because I threw 2 really bad drives. And I think I was walking after the tee shot on 6. I think we were walking to hole 6's tee pad.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna take my bag back because I need to get in my own routine. Like I feel like I need my bag right next to me. Like I feel like I need to be wearing my bag when I'm not throwing or something like that. Like it's just one of those things where like for some odd reason, and normally I've liked having caddies in the past, like I really have, but for some odd reason it just felt awkward. And so I was like, Ben, I'm taking back my bag. And so after I bogeyed hole 6, Ben also left at the same time, and so like he pieced out.
I had to take a nap, bro, and get a practice round in. I was just like, oh.
So I went and birdied 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I missed 11. Then I got 12, 13, 14, missed 15, got 16, 17, 18.
Finished
my round
-7.
at like 7 down.
Yeah. After I left and stopped caddying for him.
Okay, I'm gonna pause right here because we bring it back to Ledgestone, Nick. You had the 6 up through 6 or 6 up through 8, whatever it was.
Yeah,
so
6 through 6.
Maybe this is a Nick Carl trend and not
Dude.
Are you starting off slow to start off tournaments now?
Dude, both times on the North Course. Even the last round, I started out 1 over through 6. Even the last round, the second round, it was on an easier course. And also a really fun one. Like I really enjoyed the south side of this tournament. But you know, I started 4 down through 5. I missed hole 1, which is a super gettable par 5 that like even some people are threeing it. I just threw a trash drive that went too far left. But I started out 4 through 5. But round 1 and round 3, I started out, you know, either 2 over through 6 or 1 over through 6. And realistically, I should have started, you know, 3 for 3 or at least 2 for 3 and gotten to a point where at worst I should at least be 2 for 6. But more than likely, you kind of want to be 3 down through 6 holes. If you can get 2, 3, and 6, I think that's a really good start. And if you can get 1 as well in there, I think that's an incredible start. I'd be surprised if really during the tournament anyone birdied hole 4 and 5. I don't really know how many times that happened. But yeah, for some odd reason, and this was also, it was a tee-timed tournament. And so it's really weird going from, you know, your average C tier is you're teeing off at 9 or 9:30 in the morning. You're playing 2 rounds in one day. To like lead card on the NPO division for this tournament was at 2:24 in the afternoon. So you're kind of like, you have all morning to do something, then you have early afternoon to do something. And so I remember I was just going to this course actually super early and starting to warm up. I was stretching for a while. I was foam rolling every single day before and after my rounds. And so I was trying to take it like super seriously in the sense of like, I want to treat my body right this time. And for some odd reason, rounds 1 and 3, I just started super slow. And I'm not really sure what the reason is for that. But
well
same
I got
thing
a
happened at
reason.
Ledgestone.
Nick, what if you just threw, let's say, 30 to 50 feet further?
I mean, dude, if I could throw 30 to 50 feet further, there are some times like this tournament, it wasn't a distance contest. Like,
no, I'm just totally messing with you, Nick.
yeah,
I know
at
that's something you always
Ledgestone, if I
say.
could throw 50 feet further, it'd be an incredible feeling.
Mhm.
But Ledgestone was sick. I'll say, because I wasn't on the show last week, so I really didn't even get to, you know, talk about any of this. I was out celebrating my birthday, which is pretty awesome.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks. And what's it called? Ledgestone was awesome. I really wish that I had made the cut, obviously, because that means I would have made the cut. But then at the same time, like, I really wanted to play Eureka again because the day that I played Eureka in practice, I went by myself the first evening just to play holes 1 through 12 before it got dark. I wanted to at least get up to the water tower hole. And I remember playing the practice round, and I threw a great shot on hole 1 to where I was like, dude, if I do this in the tournament, like, I am so happy with this. It was just in a good position. It wasn't the most difficult upshot in the world. Hole 2, I threw an incredible, like, I threw 2 or 3 really good forehands on it to where I was like, okay, this hole actually isn't as hard as I remember it now that I have a pretty solid forehand. Holes 3 and 4 are surprisingly kind of tough because 3 plays uphill, and if you kick left at all, you're probably going to go B. And then hole 4 is really hard to just dial in a really good shot on that downhill par 3. Hole 5, I play for a very simple par. Just throw an overstable nuke, land it in bounds, and get up and down. If I threw kind of like one of my better shots, like my better safe shots, I'd have a very long jump putt or kind of a throw in at it, but I wasn't really too worried about it. And then in practice, this is where I was kind of like, I'm curious how I'm going to play the rest of the course, but like hole 6, I threw 2 really good shots, and I was like, wow, I can actually technically birdie this, but knowing that in the round, I was just going to play for par. Like, I'm not going to go for birdie at all on that hole. And then hole 8 also surprised me when I threw a good drive and a good second shot, and that one I actually did birdie during the tournament, and so I felt pretty good about that. But it was such like an annoying start to where I was the first tee time, I was the second or third throw of the tournament, and it was kind of cool because no one was in front of us, and that was like the coolest feelings. We kind of like had the course to ourselves in a sense. And but the ground was soaking wet, just would do, but that's kind of to be expected. That's how most, you know, local events are. But I remember being like, I thought I was warmed up, but I wasn't throwing good shots. It was weird. Like, I just played the first 6 holes horribly, except for holes 2 and 5. The rest of them I just played really bad. And especially hole 6, I actually tried to play that just insanely safe to where I threw just a big hyzer on my first shot. I went to throw another big hyzer, and it just was too low, so it stayed out of bounds on the bad side. Then I threw OB again. Then I, you know, eventually got up and down for a triple bogey. And then to kind of bring it back to even with missing 2 or 3 birdie opportunities that I should have had was pretty awesome. And then Northwoods was sick, but I made a very kind of like amateur mistake midway through round 2 on Northwoods, to where I was going through scores. I was checking to see where I was at, because after 9 holes on Northwoods round 2, I was still at even par. And even par was down 15 or 20 spots, which was well outside of what I knew the kind of like cash line was going to be at, the cut line. And so I was going up literally into the hardest holes on the course thinking I need to be aggressive and I need to get some birdies. And I only played 1 practice round on it. So I was kind of like, if I throw great shots, I can get a couple of these birdies, but let's just try to get some, you know, pars and maybe a birdie here and there. I ended up missing, or I got the dumbest bogey on hole 10 with literally probably one of the worst upshots of my life. Just a wide open 200-foot shot, and I doinked it. And then I missed a circle 1 putt for birdie on hole 11. And then I went like bogey, bogey, bogey. I double bogeyed the final hole. Like, I ended up shooting like 6 over on the back, which was so stupid. But I felt like I needed to play aggressive, which is really annoying because had I just stayed at even par, by the end of the round, even par actually moved up 15 strokes. So I would have gone from like 63rd to 48th or something like that. And I would have been well inside the cash line. And then I shot even on round 3, which was kind of like the most simplistic round, which is wild because even par, anything below par at Northwoods Black is really, really good. But that even par round that I shot just felt so simplistic in a sense of I didn't do anything special, but I also didn't like, I obviously didn't do anything really bad. And it ended up being like 1025 rated, which is actually kind of mind-boggling to me because it doesn't feel like a 1025 rated round. Like, it doesn't feel that good, which I still consider that a pretty good round. And so yeah, I don't know. Slow starts to tournaments right now are killing me. I could definitely say that's happened far too many times this year.
Yeah.
So it isn't just me. Let's go.
Oh yeah, let's go, Ben. But to drop a stat before we move on, it got a lot of notoriety on Twitter, I'll say, but I don't know if I shared it on the show last week. Nick going 6 over through 6 to start his tournament at Ledgestone on Eureka. He was the 45th NPO player to do that this season from Elite and Majors. He was the only one to finish even. Everyone else finished 3 over or worse. So Nick, you get a trophy for best comeback from a bad start on tour.
I told you, weird flex, but okay.
Weird flex, but I've with the weird flexes today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think everyone's heard about our, you know, fun local tournaments that we all did okay at. and about my stuff at Ledgestone. So I guess realistically, people want to come to hear about good disc golfers playing very good disc golf. And I think we've got that coming up. Evan, I'm going to let you take this away. We're going to talk about, actually, I want to first talk about this. We got to thank the people that are kind of like helping us help the show, support the show, and everything like that. So really want to thank Hempfield Botanicals. They're an incredible CBD company that has helped us out. All of us have been using their products. I would say, for me, actually, what feels like the last couple of years, since I met them, I actually met them in Vermont a few years ago. I've been using their products ever since. I actually brought all of it with me down here to Tennessee, where I'm spending a couple days. I use it when I'm on my long drives. I use it after my tournament rounds where I feel like my ankle's a little bit swelling up. But go ahead, use code Nick and Matt for 20% off your orders at hempfieldbotanicals.com. Incredible CBD company. Go check them out. One more time, code Nick and Matt, 20% off, Hempfield Botanicals. So now, Evan, I'm going to throw it over to you to where we'll talk about Des Moines Challenge, the True Bank Des Moines Challenge.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to True Bank and this phenomenal event. Oh, my English is bad. I'm sorry. Where they had a huge cash. NPO gets 11 grand for winning. FPO got 7 grand. Some of the biggest paychecks we've ever seen from any non-major. Actually, that's on me for not looking that up ahead of time, because that could be the highest, or it's at least one of the highest. It was, though, the highest cash payout for a 3-day event ever. Said multiple times to the broadcast. That's incredible. So that excludes majors and 4-round events like Ledgestone. But this was the weekend of the Europeans. On the FPO side, Kristen Tatar gets out to an early lead and keeps it throughout the tournament. Evelina Saladin, another European player, of course, was pushing her, was kind of in it towards the end, but eventually it still was a 4-stroke win for Kristen. That's her 3rd win on the year. She is the 10th player ever in FPO to have 3 wins in a year, and the first European to get 3 wins in a year, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, Evelina had a great event along with Kristen. They both had 21 strokes gained tee to green, but it was just the putting from Tatar was a little bit better at 79% CONX, with Saladin just at 61% CONX. I mean, like I said, the strokes gained tee to green is the same. This tournament could have gone down to the wire, maybe if Evelina matched Kristen's putting, but unfortunately not the case. But heading into Worlds, you got to feel like Kristen probably is the favorite from all players.
Mm-hmm.
Paige Pierce ended up finishing 5th, and Katrina Allen finished 11th. We had plenty of other women filling in the leaderboards, like Macy Vela Diaz getting a great podium, Erica Stinchcombe getting a 5th place finish, and Kona Panis getting an 8th place finish, with one of her rounds being bogey free. The first time she's done that all season, which incredible to go bogey free on any course. It's not a knock. It is an achievement to get to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hot round, final round for 1,000 rated round as well for her.
Yeah. Which is phenomenal. And I mentioned Paige Pierce with the 5th place finish. This is the first time she has not won her event directly before Worlds since 2016. She's gone several years in a row doing that, and of course her Worlds record is fantastic. But since 2011, when she doesn't win the preceding event, she is 1-2 at Worlds, which, I mean, if you're saying someone still has 1 Worlds win, I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And only have 3 times not winning the event before Worlds since 2011 is also incredible. But yeah, 33% chance. And I mean, you got to think the way that Kristen's playing and Katrina playing, if you're going off of this, which isn't really a true lead into a win percentage chance, but 33% of the time she wins when this happens. Those are pretty good odds still.
Mm-hmm.
But over to the NPO side with a breathtaking finish, we saw a lot of new names pop high on the leaderboard. Evan Smith was leading into the final round, but it might have been notably because the first round was postponed probably like about 70% of the way through the entire field. Like Simon Lazat's card was just had one more upshot left on 18 when the horns blew and they had to get off the course. It ended up getting postponed until the next day, and several of our lead cards, including like Paul Macbeth, had to tee off the next day before any other cards. I don't know exactly what time, but like 7 a.m. or something. Um, and that definitely threw a lot of them off. We saw Paul Macbeth, Ricky Wysocki, Chris Dickerson all outside the top 30 right away. But what that did lead into is Paul Macbeth jumping up 64 spots. He was in 70th after round one finished Saturday morning. By the time Saturday ended after round two, he was up in sixth and on chase cards. That's 64 spots. It's the largest jump that Paul's ever had in his career. You got to think he doesn't have quite that many chances to jump from 70th, since he's usually not that low, but still incredible to turn it around like that. But getting into the final round, it was kind of a two-horse show with Simon Lizotte and Robert Burridge. And of course, we'll talk to Robert Burridge later. But a name not a lot of people knew. They had a tight race going into the end. Robert Burridge got up to a three-stroke lead late into the tournament. Simon Lizotte got hit by the new PDGA Mando rule, where it crossed safe by the Mando, but then kind of curled around, hit a tree, and then crossed the restricted space, which cost him a stroke. But Simon battles back, ties it up on 17. They match each other on 18, and then Lizotte and Burridge go into a playoff, which was pretty exciting. I mean, Simon fluffed his upshot on hole one. Robert Burridge had a kind of shorter C2, but had to straddle around a putt to win the tournament. He would have been the lowest rated player ever to win a Disc Golf Pro Tour event, and it would have been the shortest amount of time anyone has gone from getting their first cash to first Elite Series win of their career. But unfortunately, Robert didn't get the putt. Playoff goes on a couple more holes. On hole three, notably, I think Burridge hit a 60-footer. Simon matched with like a 40-footer. But it goes into hole four. Burridge takes the unfortunate skip off of a stump. Simon gets into with about 40 again. Burridge with the water behind, since he was about 60 feet out, had to lay up. Simon had a 40-footer to win. He putts it, points up his finger to the crowd when it's in mid-flight, and cashes the putt to get his third Elite Series win of this season. And he is the 8th NPO player to get his third win of the season, and joining Kristan Tatar as the only Europeans to get 3 wins, 3 Elite Series or major wins, that is, in a season, which is incredible that they both do it on the same day. And this is the first time ever 2 Europeans have won an Elite Series or major at the same event ever. Fitting that it's Kristan Tatar and Simon Lizotte who are the winningest in each of their divisions as far as Europeans.
Yeah, Simon's finger point when he made that putt, I thought when he kind of like put up his hand for a second, I thought he knew he missed it right side. And then when I kind of like saw him just do that quick little finger point, I was like, man, that was cold. Like that was so perfect. And I can't wait to see whoever got kind of like the perfect photo of him doing that and just pointing at the crowd, whatever. So cool. I just think it's so funny to me how crazy disc golf is, of like what each weekend has been bringing us, especially over the last few years. I mean, we used to talk about disc golf 4 or 5 years ago, and you had the same people winning almost week in and week out. Like you had Eagle, Paul, and Ricky really dominating, with a couple players coming in the mix. This year, we're seeing just tons of new players winning. We are seeing repeat winners, but we're seeing an incredibly long list of players who are getting wins, playing incredible. And I want to like kind of like throw that out. This is kind of what I'm talking about, is Ricky Wysocki last week literally just won the Ledgestone Insurance Open. He goes back, he goes to Des Moines, he misses cash. He gets 57th place, misses cash by 2 strokes. That's the flip-flop he had. Robert Burridge went to Ledgestone last week, got 95th place, well beyond missing cash, and then goes to Des Moines, goes into a playoff, literally has a chance to win it. It gets second place at it. And that's like the craziness of disc golf right now, is like, it's insane. You know, I technically, I beat, and I'm saying this in just a manner of speaking, I beat Burridge at Ledgestone. Like I got 65th at +6 or something like that. And he was at like 98th at like +13 or whatever it was. Like we both played bad. We both missed a cut. Not saying anything more than that, but it's just crazy what like one weekend does. And then kind of going through his PDGA, you know, he's already got an A-tier win, his first year of kind of like really hitting the pro scene of it, which is pretty incredible. And he's got a lot of great finishes, and obviously this one at Des Moines now. It's just insane the way disc golf's going. Paul went from shooting, a 62 to then the course record, and then shooting a 61 to go back and, what he finished at 9th place or something like that.
16th actually.
16th place. Okay, so.
Yeah,
Oh,
10
what you were gonna
strokes
say
back of the
earlier?
leader.
What's that?
Yeah, 10 strokes back of the leader, tying Paul
Yep.
Ulibarri, who notably got a top 20 finish. He's having, I would say, a subpar year, and he probably agrees, although he's been battling an injury. So him getting a fantastic finish.
But I will say, Yuli got that USDGC spot, which is pretty awesome. Kind of getting down into the year where there's not too many more USDGC spots available. So picking them up at events like this is awesome. I know one of my really good buddies, Justin Rozak, he got one this last weekend, which is awesome. And then a couple other players. But yeah, just the craziness of what disc golf brings week in and week out. We're not seeing, continual domination week in and week out like we used to. We're seeing Simon's got 3 Elite Series wins this year. Ricky's got 3 Elite Series wins, but they're doing it, they're doing it in a very spread out fashion. Rather than one
and they
person
haven't been
just
dominating wins
murdering
either.
it. What's that?
They haven't been dominating wins either. I mean, OTB might have been Simon's most dominating win, and it was still kind of a nail biter at the end. But Portland, we saw the dramatic finish where we thought Girthy was going to grab it, and unfortunately went out of bounds. And now here, Simon had to fight back from 3 strokes with, I think, 3 left to play, or 4 left to play, and then had to go 4 holes in a playoff to get it.
I will say that playoff at Des Moines was insane. I really liked how it was holes 1 through 5, and then they do
18.
Was it 1 through 5, then 18? So I really like playoffs. Like the one that I did was play till someone loses, in the sense of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 through 18. And I really like that. I don't really care for loops of like going to find a random hole, but I guess at some courses it kind of makes sense more than other ones.
Well, to dive into it, I mean, hole 1 seemed like it was a kind of a good range of scores, and without kind of looking at the data either, this is kind of more of a gut reaction, kind of what the commentators were getting at. I unfortunately didn't get to watch all weekend, but watched the playoff. But hole 2 kind of seemed like a kind of a push hole. You didn't expect someone to win it on hole 2, and then you get into hole 3, and as they noted, a lot of people didn't like that because it was kind of a funky gap at the end where it didn't really seem kind of an intuitive to the rest of the hole design. So someone could have gotten lucky. Luckily, they both though birdied it, and Burge with incredible fashion, and Simon, like, he was almost high on that putt, but it caught the very top chain and bounced in. But like if somebody lost on that hole, I think people would have been upset. Yeah. But then you come into hole 4, which I think is it's one of the best holes in disc golf. It's such a good go for it or lay up, and of course these guys have the skill, and it's a playoff, so they're going to go for it. But people, they're going to make us talk about Stump Gate, which I don't think really is a gate, but there was just a cut down tree with a stump, probably 15 feet from the basket, and Burge was coming in pretty hard. Even if it didn't hit the stump, it would have skipped a little bit, but maybe like 10, 15 feet, kind of edge of circle. Instead, it skips probably like 40 feet or so, and almost goes out of bounds. And he kind of have an unfortunate like planted tree in his way, so he had to lay up his putt, as I was saying, and to give the Simon the win. But I think hole 1 and hole 4 were fantastic for a playoff, but 2 and 3 were kind of. But you're not going to walk past a ton of holes. But to keep on going for a second, this reminds me of LVC, where they skipped a few holes. They played, I think it was 1, 3, 5, 7, and then I forget how it was going to finish out from there. But when we saw Drew Gibson and Gannon Burr battle it, they weren't playing in succession. Of course, that was also to do with maybe how the tees were set up. But they were skipping a few holes that they might have felt were just going to be pushes either. I
think, the LVC kind of like skipping the holes. Hole 2 at that course is just a little wooded par 3 that's probably no more than 260 feet, 270 feet maybe. Hole 3 at least has the little water in it. Hole 5 is a par 4. Hole 7 is the Garrett ace hole, the par 4 up the hill that Drew ultimately won it on. No, I thought it was awesome. I honestly thought Simon lost it on hole 1 when he threw that shot low and instantly started running at it. I said, dang it. what are you doing? Because we were all texting each other last night, and we were just like, come on, Simon's got to clutch up right here. And no, I mean, Robert had a pretty hard putt on hole 1, and then hole 2 they just pushed it with 2 what seemed like good putts, 25, 30 feet. I mean, Simon's putting just looked incredible, and Robert's also looked incredible. Just
he didn't. Simon didn't miss all weekend.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Burge I think was 97% inside the circle. So
yeah,
they were clutch.
As much as hole 3 was kind of like a janky hole, is what it seemed like. For them to both birdie it to force another hole was pretty badass. For Robert to barely kind of like get to the edge of making the gap, and then to hit that, I don't know, 50, 60 footer or whatever it was, and to just nail that putt to where like he knew that last second, he knew that was going in. He just waited for it to actually hit the chains. Yeah, like he knew, and he was hyped.
You can see it in his body language too. Like he putted and kind of was watching it, and then like halfway through the flight, he like kind of like did an athletic like crunch stance or something. I don't know how to describe it.
He knew,
but at that point, halfway through, I don't know. You guys got to watch the video and tell me that's not.
This is sponsored by Athletic Crunch. Yeah, protein for days.
And then Simon's putt, same thing. He had the body language of someone who missed it, and then the basket just sucked it right in, which was great. And then hole 4, stump gate. We can kind of go from there, but at the same time, this is where everyone's going to have different kind of agreements on this, where I think the layup in hindsight, it was a good play, but at the same time, like, who goes for that? That's what I'm wondering. Like, what players are saying they're going for that putt? And I'm genuinely curious because, I had in my playoff that I had, it was a long par 4. I threw my second shot 45 feet to the right of the basket to make sure I didn't go OB left. Because if you go OB left in the water, you have a pretty hard putt. And I knew if I 5'd the hole, I was going to lose. And so I had about a 45-foot putt, and that was for 3. But then this kid that I was playing against, Dylan Horst, he had probably about a 20, 25-foot putt uphill for 4, to where like he's probably going to make his putt for 4. But if I somehow miss my putt, I'm probably going to roll OB, and then I'd lose a tournament like that. So I literally just walked right up to it. I laid it up, and I was like, you know what? We'll go to hole 2. Maybe I can take it on 2 or 3.
Bridgegate.
And so, Bridgegate. Yeah, that's so beyond. That's so besides the point. But what's called? That's where, like in Robert's situation, his putt also was very awkward. He could either do a big hyzer putt at it, or kind of like that Annie putt. I think he made the right decision of laying it up and kind of forcing Simon to make what looked like a 35 to 38 footer. I think the commentators were saying. It's just tough because Simon goes 100% circle 1X, and then you're only talking about a putt that's 5 feet further. So
that's the only thing you could kind of say against Robert, and we'll get into his opinion on it too, of course, and see if he thinks he made the right choice. But with the way Simon was putting, you could argue like you knew he was going to make it, so you got to try anyways. But when you look at what his putt was, how downhill it was, I don't think there's a chance you miss it chains high and you don't go OB. Like you're either missing short, which is a layup really, or you're going OB. And you kind of think about the options, like that was like a 2% at best make, maybe. Like if he has 100 putts from that exact distance over and over, like how many times does he make it? Not many at all. But how many times does he go OB on a miss? On a miss, I'd say like 100% if he's actually giving it a real attempt, maybe 95%.
Well, that's also where would you rather lose? Would you rather lose off of laying up and someone hit the putt, or throwing OB for that person to now be able to just lay up and walk away with the win?
Put it on
what is a better feeling loss in a sense?
You don't think about the losses in that point. You got to think about the wins. I think the another big part is how confident Robert was, and I think he was incredibly confident. I think he was also running on adrenaline. He felt like he could win, even though he was going with Simon, who's won 2 Elite Series this year, 4 total in his career, and is Simon effing Lizotte, right? He still felt he had just as much of a chance to win, if not more. And so if he pushes it to the next hole, he could win on the next hole. It's not, hey, I'm lucky to be here. Simon's going to get me eventually. I better get it now. He didn't feel that way at all. So I think that maybe ultimately was the biggest decision too.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it's just, I think it speaks to the tales of like how insane this year has been disc golf wise. It's been such an incredible, like, we've seen absolutely epic battles. The Des Moines Challenge just proved that once again. European Open was such an incredible battle to watch back and forth between Paul and Eagle. We've just had insane tournaments going on, and it's been so fun because we're literally coming up in a week and a half to 2 weeks to the biggest tournament. Like it starts next week? It starts in 8 days. The World Championships out in Emporia, Kansas. Like, arguably the biggest tournament of the year. I know some pros will say differently, but a majority of the pros, I think, when you get solidified, like whoever wins a world championship, like when you're a one-time world champion, your name gets talked about for years and years and years to come. And in some sort of way, you're etched in disc golf history. Like, I would look at, like, Eric McCabe, who's a one-time world champion. We talk about him still all the time because he's still involved with the sport. He's still involved with dynamic discs. But at the same time, like, we talk about him as a world champion. James Conrad, we'll talk about as a world champion, you know, the greatest shot in disc golf. There's so many things to talk about it. And we finally have those coming up this year. And it's like, are we going to see more one-time world champions? Are we going to see maybe 2 different 6-time world champions? Are we going to see a 3-time world champion? Like, there's, I think, an incredible amount of storyline to tell that, I don't know. What do we think? I know next week we'll have a show right before the World Championships. I'm not sure if I'll be on it yet because I'll actually be out in Emporia, Kansas, hopefully practicing and hopefully
winning,
having good practice. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. A one-time world champion, you know?
Yeah, right.
But,
it could be you, like you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, it could be anyone. Like, I mean,
look at Burridge.
Look at, like, what's that?
I said, look at Burridge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Burridge, incredible weekend, almost literally squeaked away. And what was the insane stat you were saying? Like the quickest that would have been from taking cash to winning an Elite Series event?
Yeah, it would have been 294 days since his first cash, which was actually at the New England Amateur Disc Golf Tour Championships last year. He took 8th, lost to Micah Groth, who we had on the show.
New England.
Did I say New England?
Yeah,
National Amateur. Yeah. Sorry, excuse me. National Amateur Disc Golf Tour. Oof. But yeah, that was his first cash. And 294 days later, today or yesterday would have been on August 21st, he could have been the quickest ever to do it. Ricky Wysocki is currently the holder at 441 days, so Burridge still has a chunk of time before he has to get that. But like, how incredible would that done? Blowing away the record, doing it in less than a year from being an amateur to a pro to an Elite Series champion. That would have been insane. And to highlight him for a second too, like his career has been no slouch. I mean, he was the 2021 U.S. Amateur Disc Golf Champion, and he won the 2022 earlier this year College Disc Golf National Championship in D1 singles. He just moved up 78 spots in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings. He's sitting at 71st, so he's 71st. So he's looking good for GMC. He's got to make some moves to get into Maple Hill or MVP Open, excuse me. He also moved up 228 spots in the Statmando official rankings. He's up to 68th. That is, he came from 296. He was almost like the 300th best player in the world to then go to winning an event. Almost. That's absolutely incredible. It would have been a story to tell for a long time. We've seen other kind of unique winners, like you're saying, like Conor O'Reilly, Mason Ford, Isaac Robinson, but these guys are all still making names for themselves to this day, and not that Robert Burridge won't, but those guys all were kind of in contention, at least, and being known. And Robert Burridge comes from not a lot of people knowing him, having some of these big titles, to almost taking it from the best players in the world. It was incredible. Either way, it could have been like one of the most incredible moments in disc golf.
No, definitely, it was super close. The chat's kind of going off about us calling Simon. Look, I'm going to be honest, guys. I think all 4 of us texted Simon today and said, can you please come on the show? Like, we really want to get Simon. He's actually in the air right now, I'm pretty sure. And he's going back to finally visit his family after like 2 or 3 weeks. So we would have loved to have Simon on and talk about this. And maybe we'll get Simon on next week.
Simon, can I have your number? Thank you.
But yeah, we did really want to get Simon on. I think that kind of wraps up kind of Des Moines talk and disc golf talk in that regards. We're having Robert on at 8 o'clock, right, Ben?
Correct. 8 EST,
Right, so
which is 15 minutes.
Awesome. We got like
EVT,
15 minutes to talk about some kind of like useless drama in the disc golf world right now. And I'm just going to kind of lead this, and it's only going to take me a few minutes, and then we're going to talk about something completely different. As everyone is probably well aware, there has been some Paul and Brody beef going on in the disc golf world over the last week. It started months ago, but really kind of blew up when we were all at Ledgestone. Debate Night podcast over on the Foundation podcast channel had put out a video, and it's titled, what really happened between Paul and Brody's side of it. And it's like an hour and a half video, but the first, I think 20 or 30 minutes is what really them talking about Brody's side of the situation. In that video, they talk about a mutual friend, and I'm quoting that because a mutual friend who caused a lot of issues throughout the whole situation. I just want to kind of clear my name out there. I am not that mutual friend. So I keep getting tagged and everything, and I think a lot of people are assuming that it's me because of I have a close relationship still with Hunter Thomas. I don't think I have any issues with Brody in the sense of like I don't think I've done anything wrong by him in that regards. I'm best friends with Paul, and so I think when they kind of said a mutual friend that had done something that hurt the relationship, I think a lot of people just really quickly assumed that it was me. It actually wasn't. So that's really kind of all I got to say about that. I called up Hunter yesterday to talk to him about it. I left a comment on their video. I just keep getting tagged and stuff on Twitter, on Instagram, and all over the place, just saying like, what did you do? Did you do this? You're a horrible person, stuff like that. So just kind of want to clear my name out there. It is not me. It was something else in a situation that was not at all talked about in the sense of like no one, besides for the people who know what happened, no one in the world is speculating it correctly. So anyways, just going to clear my name out there. In that regards, Hunter and I are still very good friends. We actually spent probably 30 minutes on the phone yesterday talking about all this, and I think it's funny when people think that Hunter and I have beef because we literally text each other about it and make jokes, and him, Paul, and I still talk very regularly. No, I'm not moving to Florida to go join with Paul. I have a pretty incredible life going on in Virginia right now. I live on a disc golf course. I'm building it up to be an incredible course with a bunch of buddies of mine, and we're hosting a very big B tier at it later on this year, so I'm super excited about that. So no, I'm not moving to Florida. I'm sticking around in Virginia for a little while. I'm fortunate enough to be in Nashville, Tennessee with my girlfriend right now, which is super awesome, and then I'm going out to Worlds in New England for a while. So anywho, that's about that. I'm not the mutual friend. I think one other thing in the disc golf world that we don't really need to kind of dive too much into, but UC Maresma, very, very affiliated with the Discmania Disc Golf Company, had posted today on his Instagram. I'm not going to quote it word for word, but he was convicted of a felony for what it kind of seems like to be paying for sex. I don't really know the full logistics of it. I didn't dive at all into it. I just heard about it, read his Instagram story. If you want to see more about that, head over to his Instagram. He has a post about it, and you can figure it all out from there. I'm sure plenty of people have posted anything that has to do with it, but that's that. I don't really think there's much to dive into that until maybe more stuff comes out about it. We were talking about how much we really want to talk about this tonight in general, and I don't really think there's much more to say, except we'll kind of just see how this impacts anything to do with, European Open, maybe a Worlds bid out in Europe at some point, or the Discmania company in and of itself. They had made a post also, condemning the situation, saying they, do not condone it in any way, shape, or form, and that it was, just a bad move in general. So that's about that. That's the stupid, useless drama that's going on in the disc golf world right now. I think everyone wants so much more information out of all of it, and I think when people are starting to realize that so much of this drama is really not that big of a deal, it just keeps getting created into this massive, massive bubble until it's ready to pop. Yeah, I don't know.
Keep Nick's name out your mouth.
Yeah. So there you go. Anyways, that's really it.
All right, well, let's move it on and let's
Hold on,
dive
hold on.
in.
I gotta say this really quick. Hole in One Disc Golf said, Nick, what happens to Paul's course when he moves to Florida? So one of my buddies actually bought that property. So that course is very well still in incredible production right now. Actually, the driveway is, I think, in the construction stage to, start with the parking lot, and then we have someone coming out and building tee pads with us. So that course is in perfect mode to be an incredible place, and I can't wait for people to actually be able to enjoy it in the world, because it's an incredible Paul Macbeth designed course, and it's super challenging, and I really, really like it. So that's that.
Well, I want to dive into a little bit about the Mando situation with Simon Lizotte. Not a stat Mando, unfortunately not. It's just a regular Mando. But the PDGA recently being 2022, that is, not in the last couple of weeks. Don't say that. It was in their kind of yearly updates of rules. They changed the Mando rules where the restricted space where the Mando goes on the outsides. This is gonna be. I'm not gonna be the best at describing this. If you want to know exactly what it is, you should go look it up or hear from other people. They're gonna be much better at it. But the restricted space that goes on the wrong side of the Mando, kind of perpendicular to your view from the tee. So even if you cross the Mando space in, let's say, fair territory, but curl around and cross like kind of that line of scrimmage. I'm using so many other sports right now. If you cross that line of scrimmage backwards, it's considered missing the Mando. So it's not just the entryway, it's where it ends up. And so unfortunately this happened to Simon. It again was in, let's say, fair territory, kicked a tree and bounced backwards. So it was an unfortunate skip. It wasn't the best shot, but it still originally made the Mando. So what do you guys think about that? Is that kind of restricted space where it bounces back and uncrosses the mandatory? Is that a good rule? Is it a good rule but not in this specification? Should TDs be allowed to alter that? Oh man, Ben's trying to show. Oh, okay. Thanks, Ben, for the picture. Hopefully it's clear enough for people to see if you're watching on video. But could there be a way where TDs maybe could mark this on their own if they did want to keep that restricted space but not have it be a perfect perpendicular mark from the tee? Just curious on general thoughts if anything needs to be done or if it's great as is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were ending it right there.
No, I was offering up open floor.
No, I also don't know why my screen got like randomly dark all of a sudden when the lights are on. So just trying to fix that.
Ben, you can hit us with something too if you want.
All right. So is the rule dumb or not? Is that what you're asking?
Dumb or not is your words.
I don't know.
What do you think of it?
I'm indifferent about it. I feel like it's a rule that I feel like it's not gonna. I know it affected Simon, but I feel like it's not gonna be as big of a deal. The only way I can think of it actually happening is on a more consistently happening is on a roller. I don't know really how else that would happen where you pass a Mando and then it just does a 180. But I'm indifferent about it. I'm not mad at it. It's not a issue like tractors on a disc golf course are. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I don't like in the sense of like if he made it and then rolled back and he doesn't have the chance to kind of like just make it again, like he now gets penalized for it. I don't really like that. So the rule in and of itself, I kind of think it sucks, and I think it's really hard to dissect. I mean, it took 4 players on that card and an official, the CEO of the Pro Tour, to ultimately come up with a decision on what's to happen. So I think there's just there's too much room for interpretation with the rules right now, and we're seeing that so much more lately. Like, one of the big things that just happened this last weekend is someone threw a disc under a gazebo and it somehow slid under the gazebo. The gazebo was not labeled out of bounds on anything of the course, but it also wasn't considered a playable area. And so then people are arguing the rule of verticality versus the player taking it back to the nearest point to where he can put a foot down in line with the basket. And I don't know, there's just too much room for interpretation on so many rules right now that they just need to get more and more specific. And I think they are going to get more and more specific as we have these situations. Like one of the rules that came up when I was at Ledgestone, it's not even much of a rule, but it kind of is, but someone's disc was half in circle 1 and half in circle 2. And the back of his disc was obviously in circle 2. So there was actually a marshal walking by, and so we asked him, like, is his disc technically circle 1 or circle 2? Like, can he step putt this or jump putt this? And then the guy pretty much just said, he's like, where's your lie? Technically, the lie is behind your disc, and that part of it was in circle 2, so he was allowed to step putt it. But years ago, I had heard that it was front of the disc, back of the mini. Kind of like if you put your marker down, it's the back of the mini, but your lie is technically the front of the disc. And so, I don't know, there's just so many different things going on, and I think the Mando rule was one that was changed, and it's just very confusing. Fortunately, I haven't missed the Mando, I don't think, to where this has had to come into play too much for me, and I'd rather not.
Whoa.
Dude, I'm confused by all the rules, Matt.
Oh, he took me.
Yeah.
Whoops. There's Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're saying they can't hear you, Matt.
Oh yeah, I have to unmute you, Matt. Yeah, you totally
there we go.
bombshelled me. All right.
See, Matt thinking he has all the powers, yet he doesn't.
Wait, I think we fixed it, guys.
Talk, Matt. Yeah, I got you. I got you.
I can hijack the show without talking, I guess.
Oh yeah? Where's Matt now? Huh?
Yeah.
Huh? There we go. I have the real power.
That important. I guess all I was going to say is this. Anytime there's a new rule, especially when it gets like something that people were so used to and their concept was the fact that you just have to pass by a certain side of a tree, that when they illustrated it with the new rule, it now says like restricted area, which it changes the concept of like, hey, if I fly into that area, that's restricted, meaning I can't come back out and go back around the Mando the right side. It's like a restricted wall.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually happened to Hunter, my son, at his last tournament, and he was confused by it too. And it's like, he's so bummed. He's like, dude, I didn't even miss the Mando.
So
and they're like, yeah, but you did. So
Matt,
anyway,
how did
that's a new rule.
how did Hunters do it? Did it just roll there, or was it like a air shot that it came back? Like, I'm very confused how it happens.
It would bounce off a tree, I would assume. Like,
Oh.
what happened
Well,
with
so
Silent.
Okay, that I didn't think about that.
So no, so imagine this, like T-pad to Mando tree. Okay, so let's say there's a Mando tree directly in front of you. Let's just say it's 200 feet, and it's a T-pad to tree would be your line of play to that Mando. And then off of that perpendicular, and I know for those driving and listening and me talking, people are like, okay, we got perpendicular, we've got off the line to T-pad,
Yeah.
but perpendicular, literally 90 degrees from now on that line of play. So through the Mando tree, 90 degrees, picture it as like an invisible wall. If you throw through that wall, it's a restricted area no matter what happens. Like even if you land just 1 foot past that wall, you could say, well, I can go around the Mando still, but you can't because you're in a restricted area. So it's just, once you get into that restricted area, it's over. It doesn't matter if you can go around the tree or not. So,
And to counter that, though, not necessarily that I agree with it or not, but if it's a fake wall that's restricted, how can you go through the safe part, hit a tree, and then go back through it and have that not be allowed? It's kind of like it isn't allowed from the front way, but it is allowed from the back until it crosses. So it's like two different sets of rules. One you can't pass through.
Yeah.
One it can't land, because if it crossed in fair, then let's say bounced back to the restricted space, but then backed forward to a safe space, that's allowed. It doesn't matter if it crossed that restricted space.
What I want to say is I was using that for illustration's sake, but the restricted area is also on the ground anywhere, right? So what I would say is you can't be in your disc flight cannot go into that restricted area ever. Doesn't matter if you go around the right side of the Mando and come back through that. That's a restricted area. Now, I don't necessarily love that because in my head, I'm like, if your shot goes around the Mando the right side and it rolls into that area, I wish they would flag it out like an OB area then. But that's like, anyways, that's the point there is it can make a good shot that makes the Mando, ends in the restricted area, or flies through it, I should say. It could even land in a good area in front of it, but if it goes through the restricted area, that's a restricted area.
How do they define a restricted area?
It's like a no-flight zone for an airplane. And I was just on an airplane. But
if, like, let's say the triple Mando hole at USDGC.
Yeah.
Can I throw a big hyzer to the gap of it, or did I technically hit a restricted zone?
No, it would be beyond the line of Mando. So you'd have to be beyond it to do that.
So that one would be just a normal Mando. Like, that would be
But here's my question. Yeah, and here's my question. We'd have to bring on somebody who knows more than that. How far does that restricted line go? Because as you said, if you hyzer through a triple Mando, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
You go into it, and let's just say you skip left. Yeah, where does the restricted area end? And that's where maybe it is the invisible wall I was talking about. Yeah. I'm not the expert on this new rule. I just know it came up recently. It came up with Simon, and it's like, I'm okay with it. It'd be nice to hear more clarity on it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, and now I'm kind of thinking about if a hole kind of almost makes a candy cane shape, and at the, let's say, pinnacle of the candy cane, the farthest away point from the T-pad as the crow flies, that's where a Mando was, a triple Mando, and if you made it through but then had to curl around to get to the basket, like USDGC's triple, not the bamboo triple Mando hole, but the other one that kind of takes a hard left later in the course. I don't remember the exact number. I haven't been there, so I don't know if it does
15.
kind of curl backwards.
15.
But there is a chance if it goes in perpetuity, then there is a chance you cross it. So it's a little tricky in that sense.
We're missing something. We're missing something because how could you be so arbitrary to say that the line goes forever on, let's say, a triple Mando?
Exactly.
Well, then everyone would have to go perfectly straight. And if it's a restricted access area, then where is it just a no width wall? It doesn't make sense. So we're lost. I mean,
we could just ask someone who was there at the event, Robert Burridge, about it.
I was gonna say, I think we have him in our virtual green room.
I think we do.
Perfect. Yeah. Bring him in.
Alrighty. Oh,
there he is, Robert Burridge. What's up, man? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
All right, we can hear you nice and wonderfully. Where are you at right now, Rob?
I am at a Starbucks about 10 hours away from Des Moines right now.
Gotcha. Okay, I think first thing we got to ask, is it Robert, Rob, Bob? What do you like to be called?
Usually I'm just called Robert, but I've gone by any variation of the name.
Okay, so if that's mostly what people call you, then I just want to make sure, because we've had people on where we're like, you want to get their name right, obviously. So Robert, incredible last weekend over at Des Moines. That was an incredible show you put on. Incredible playoff run to almost take down your first Elite Series event. Kind of just give us the highs and lows of the weekend. Talk to us about it.
I didn't really have any lows, I guess, starting there. I guess the biggest low I had was the skip off the tree stump, but even that was just a bad break. Highs, hitting the putt on 3 in the playoff, hitting the putt on 18 to force the playoff. Being able to push Simon to have to make the putt on 4. And just, solid playing all around. I didn't realize I was 7 down through 9 in the final round. That was a nice surprise when I look back. But, Simon played equally as good that last round. He did end up, beating me. He deserved it. And it was just fun to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. Matt, Evan, do you guys want to? I was going to let you guys pitch in. I'll keep going.
Ben was texting me like, how do I make his resolution better? Anyways, so here I am.
I think I figured it out.
Okay. Robert, great to meet you this way. I just took a flight and landed. I'm on the road as well, but I had to get on for this interview. I was really impressed with your play, like spectacular play going up against Simon, who has unnatural abilities, and obviously you have some as well. And I think what stands out to me the most, besides the consistent play to that point, was the playoff. And even more specifically, because we all saw how the first two went down, hole 3, what was going through your mind on that putt? Was it like, I make this or it's over? Is that what you were thinking?
I was, I was thinking I can run this as hard as I want, knowing that I probably wasn't going to roll OB unless I took some bad roll. I also knew Simon didn't have a gimme. I'd say it was probably 70-30 that he'd make it. So I gave it the best run I could, snuck it in the bottom left corner, and gave myself a chance for the win. But Simon canned it, and I was just fair play on to the next hole.
All right, yeah. And by the way, your name Robert. My middle name's Robert, and I think it's a special name. So keep up the good work.
Right.
But to continue on the hole 3 putt, it was a tough putt, and I'm sure as soon as you let go, you're like, okay, kind of let's see how this goes. But when did you know it was in? You kind of had a body movement about halfway through. I called it an athletic crunch. I don't know what to call it, but you kind of squatted, and you're like, to me that was like you knew it was in at that point, kind of at the halfway point of the flight of the putt. But when did you know?
So I think going back to hole 12 as well, I had pretty much the same reaction on a jump putt where I jumped it and I was like, that's probably going in, but there's still a chance it won't, so I'm not going to run it in quite yet. But I was, out of my hand, I was fairly sure it was going to hit some sort of metal and probably go in.
Mhm.
I just, there was a chance it wouldn't, so I didn't want to run in yet.
There you go. Talk to me about what clicked this last weekend. We were talking earlier in the show of Ledgestone. You had missed cast at Ledgestone, and then literally a 1 week turnaround, you go and almost win an Elite Series event. So just talk to us what clicked this weekend.
So this weekend it was the driving. At Ledgestone, I just couldn't get off the tee, but I was putting really well. And I just sort of carried that over and played a little more free, knowing that once I got near the basket, I could make it from almost anywhere. And I think I ended top 10 in strokes gained putting. So that was the game plan, was get near it and make some putts.
Okay, is my audio better, guys?
Way better.
Yes. Yep.
There we go.
Okay. Win for the iPhone. Hey, Robert, do you feel shafted or slighted or just like super unlucky with that stump on the hole 4 playoff?
I feel really unlucky. I feel more unlucky that it skipped behind a tree to where I couldn't really run it. But it's how it works sometimes, and maybe next time I'll hit the side of the stump and kick next to the basket. Who knows?
Has anybody questioned your laying up that shot yet?
I've seen some comments on Instagram,
What do you
but
think?
it was, if I ran that putt, it was going to be in the water because I wasn't really going to make it with the angle I had to throw it on.
Mhm.
So I, just thought I'll park it and make Simon have to make a putt.
I was just about to say, like, if you had to give yourself a possibility or, percentage chance of that putt going in, whether you had to hyzer it and hyzer it, like, what's your percentage of making that putt?
Based on how I was feeling, I could probably make it about 15-20% of the time, but the other 80% it's rolling into the water.
I was just about to say, so if you're aggressively trying to make that putt, like, no matter what, you're probably going to go OB if you miss it, in a sense. So
Yeah, exactly.
We were talking about that earlier, like, almost where I think you made the right play. And I think a majority of people would agree with that. I think kind of in the position that you were in. Now, if you had a wide open putt and you laid it up, then people could be like, oh my gosh, why didn't he go for it? Because of the water. But like, you had an obstructed putt. It wasn't a clean chance at it. You made the right play by laying it up. People who are saying otherwise, I think, just don't really know what it's like to be in that position.
Mm-hmm.
Would if you had ran it and went OB, do you feel like this loss would hurt a little bit more, or do you think the way you played it makes it kind of like you put the ball in Simon's court to where he needs to make that putt, and he just made it on that last shot. You know what I mean?
I think it hurts. I think it hurts less the way that it ended. You know, it really,
Mhm.
you know, if Simon was within 15, 20 feet and I laid it up, then it would have hurt more because I know he's making that every time. The way he was putting, he was probably going to make the putt he had every time.
Yeah.
But, you know, if I had ran it and gone OB, Simon would have just laid up since there's danger around that basket, and I wanted to make him have to make a throw.
Yeah. Well, talk to us about, just really quick, talk to us, you know, you were an amateur last year is what people are kind of telling me, and then you're a pro this year. You're accepting cash, you're playing great, you have an A-tier win, you've got a second place at an Elite Series event, which is insane. Talk to us about kind of what are your goals and ambitions in the disc golf world?
So, you know, this year through collegiates and this tournament, if I didn't get that, I plan on going to USDGC. I plan on going to Worlds. Attempting to win the PDJ Rookie of the Year. Get some more A-tier wins. Get some good finishes at more Elite Series and majors. But next year I'll be on tour full time, and we'll just see where it goes from there.
So you were sitting in about 150 something in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings. With the second place finish, you're up to 71, which means you are in a spot to play in GMC, but you're still outside a spot for MVP Open. Besides going for the win, was that on your mind that you wanted to get in a position to play the playoff events?
So I had absolutely no idea that I would even get a chance to, no matter how I played, because I've played 3 events maybe on the tour at this point. Like, I really haven't played insanely well either. I also don't know if I'll be able to with school, so it really wasn't on my mind as a, you know, shoot well and you can do this type thing.
So you're still in college right now?
I am, yes.
How many more years do you have?
I graduate in December.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So you're on the back end. You're finishing up. You're like December of this year.
Yeah, December of this year.
Nice. And then plans afterwards. You know, are you pursuing your major, whatever you're doing now, or are you pursuing the disc golf full time?
I'm going to go on tour for a year, and we'll make a decision based on that.
Nice. Good for you. That's awesome. At least give it at least one go with it. That's awesome. So
yeah. And knowing what school you go to is a pretty easy choice because I can just look at you winning the collegiate disc golf national championship. Excuse me. So you go to Michigan. Talk to us about just disc golf at Michigan, like how you joined the team. Was that kind of when you started playing disc golf? Did you know when you're going to the school you were already going to join the team? Kind of explain through that.
So before I even went to college, really, I had I think I started kind of getting a little bit better at disc golf. I started playing back in 2017, so kind of back end of high school. And so I was starting to play more seriously, and I started the club with a couple other guys. And then I was part of that, and I was part of the ultimate team, and just disc sports kind of became my life besides school.
All right. I'm still here. I know they try to cut me out because I'm on the road now, but so Ultimate came up a few times, like during the live feed and all that. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know very much about you. I may have heard your name, but you obviously made a big splash. Tell everyone about it. Like, Ultimate was your thing, and then you discovered disc golf, or how did that work?
So both my parents played Ultimate at pretty high levels. So I've been able to throw a disc, at least an Ultimate disc, pretty much my whole life. And then I think I started playing disc golf again like 2017-ish. But I never really did either one competitively. And I guess I became more of a disc golfer before I became an Ultimate player.
Okay, cool. Absolutely. And I think you said your parents did that, so was that something they did when they were younger too? I mean, we had just interviewed like John Kirkland and Cody Kirkland recently, and Cody's like been really into Ultimate. Is this something they've been doing for a long time, so you grew up with it?
Yeah, so when I was really young, I remember going to watch my mom at like a World Championships for Ultimate. Like
Wow.
they played at really high levels. I remember just sort of being on the sideline and watching it sort of go down, and it was an experience, and we got to travel to a few different places for it, and it was a lot of fun. But I've just been around this sort of spirit of the game type culture, the like always wish the best for your opponent type culture my whole life.
Wow. Really cool. And then I'll give this last one and then toss it back over to the show. Is you're sponsored on Team Innova. Is that something that happened? You said 2017 you picked up disc golf, but or more fully. But when was the team sponsorship thing happen for you?
So I won the 2021 United States Amateur Championships, and basically less than a month after that, I was in contact with Innova to become part of the team.
Cool. All right, guys, tossing it back to you for now.
Cool. My next question was, we were kind of talking about it right as you got on the show, and then for some odd reason we didn't extend the conversation, but talk to us on the lead card about the Mando situation that kind of happened and what ultimately led to the decision that was decided. And I guess, how do you feel about that rule?
So before I say anything else, we looked at it as best we could, and based on rules, Simon was in the restricted space, even though I know on the card, and I talked to a couple of the other players, we all think it's not necessarily the best rule. And it should probably be changed back.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something for me to decide. So what happened was he hit the left side Mando, he kicked through the Mando, and that's what he was asking on the tee was, did I make it? And we're like, yeah, you kicked through it. But whatever stroke of probably another tree branch, it kicked him back behind the arrow. The problem was the arrow was curved and about 3 feet long. And so we were just trying to decide what part of the arrow to go from and to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we ended up going from where the painted arrow starts to the tip, even though it was curved, and we couldn't give it to him based on that.
Now,
Gotcha.
from when you guys decided how to interpret the arrow, and you kind of had your direction based off that, was it pretty close, or was it kind of obvious if that was the right plane to go off of?
So I think if they're going to make restricted space, they have to, kind of as y'all were saying before I got on, they have to like make it way more clear, at least for some distance. At least, like, if anything else, just flags, maybe not paint.
Yeah.
But based on how we interpreted it, the only way it could be Simon's disc could have been in was if we used the first maybe like half foot of painted line to determine direction, but then it curved toward the basket, I guess is the best way to describe it, and away from his disc, and so we couldn't give it to him based on the full arrow.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So definitely a weird situation, and it kind of came down to where Jeff Spring had to come over and kind of either second the call or kind of officially call it to where, he missed the Mando at that point, right?
He definitely, like, we were talking to him about how the rules should be interpreted, how we should look at the arrow, and there was no clear and obvious way to interpret it, but we had to make a call one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And based on all of our interpretations of the rule, we couldn't quite give it to him.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I guess my final question is, on a scale 1 to 10, how do you rate the outcome of like how do you rate the outcome of your weekend in a sense? Like,
I'd I'd have to give it probably like an 11 or 12. I
Okay.
don't really care that I didn't win.
Okay.
I'm sure you can see it on the live video. You can see it on Jomez. You can see it in the photos. I was having the time of my life.
Mhm.
Because I am, if you look back at some of the other coverage I've been in, I do enjoy kind of being sort of a showman as well, kind of showing the crowd like, look, I can hang with these guys. Look, I can throw really far. I can putt well. It's sort of one of those things that I really enjoy being on camera because it gives me a little extra boost, a little extra adrenaline.
Mhm.
And so having that opportunity and capitalizing it was really, really fun. And this is, the best I've ever played at any tournament ever.
Nice. That's awesome.
It-
Definitely a better answer than I thought it was going to be. So that's
Yeah.
great.
And not just like your opinion, but I mean, as far as cash goes, it definitely was your best tournament. Your total prize cash entering this from your entire career was $5,584. You earned $7,000 for this Des Moines Challenge. How does that money feel? Are there any plans for it? Is it getting spent, saved, invested? However.
It is definitely getting saved. Maybe spent to help pay for Worlds where I'll be for over a week, but gas money, traveling money is always, it's nice to have some sort of insurance going into the next tournament.
Okay.
Definitely.
I have my one question that I love to ask too, is just to get to know you a little bit better as a person. Is like, if disc golf or ultimate like wasn't happening on any given weekend, or you didn't have the ability to play it, what are you doing in your spare time? Like, what was some other ambition maybe in your life or hobby that you do that you really enjoy?
If I couldn't play it,
Sure. Just like, what's your second thing? Like, hey, I really like this a lot. What's something else?
I guess, I don't know. It's taken up a lot of my time recently. I'm gonna have to really think about that for a second.
That's okay. How about like I don't know, a second thing? Some people say, "Oh, I like video games," or "I like reading," or "I like fishing," or bicycling. Like, is there anything else that you used to do before you found frisbee? And I know your parents, like, you grew up with it, but like, is there anything else that you really like?
So what I used to do when I couldn't do that was, I used to play soccer extremely competitively. Used to be on like 2 teams for it. I'd go to a local field and just practice that and like run, just stay in shape, stay in physical shape, because it really helps my my mental state, because I know my body's not going to break down sort of as the round goes on.
Yeah, and ultimate and soccer both require extreme endurance for running, so that's something that's a little different than disc golf. But anyways, cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
Well, Robert, if you got time, we'd love to play a game with new guests on the show. It's called Stat or Fiction, presented by Stat Mando.
And I'm gonna
so-
bow out. And I'm gonna bow out, guys. Keep the show going. It was awesome meeting you. All right.
Take it easy, Matt.
Bye.
Peace. So we play this fun game, Stat or Fiction. All it is you, myself, and I think Ben actually will all play against each other. And they ask a question. We determine if it's stat or fiction. And Evan is kind of the game master.
All right, I got time.
All right, sounds good. Let's roll it.
Here we go.
Stat or Fiction, presented by Stat Mando.
All right. So, like Nick was saying, I'll give a statement. You're going to tell me if it is a stat, as in it's true, or it's fiction, as in is false. And of course, if you get it right, you get a point, and we'll see who has the most points at the end. So, getting into it, the True Bank Des Moines Challenge saw more total star frames than any other NPO Elite or Major this season. So, of course, a star frame being the entire card got a birdie or better. And so that across the whole entire field, across the whole entire tournament. So that is the True Bank Des Moines Challenge saw more total star frames than any other NPO Elite or Major this season. Starting off with Nick.
Oh, that's tough. And that's throughout the whole weekend, huh?
whole weekend.
That's such a crazy stat. I'm gonna say stat.
Bing. Me?
All you, Ben.
I'm also gonna have to say stat. It just seems too Kernsy of you to be fiction.
All right, Robert, what do you think?
I think it's a stat. Kind of going through the course in my head, there's a lot of holes that there could be a star frame on.
All right. And this is a stat. You
Oh,
guys all saw through
obviously.
it, which I'm a little bit surprised by because this was only a 3-round event, considering the next best and the third best were both 4-rounders, and a lot of this top 10 were 4-rounders. But we saw 78 star frames this weekend. The next best was Champions Cup with 69, Las Vegas Challenge with 67. Incredible week. I mean, the course may be set up for that, where there's a lot of, you'd say.
I was thinking Vegas, to be honest, when I was thinking of like courses that are potential for that, Vegas or Waco, but Waco was so windy this year.
Yeah, Waco's actually 4th with 65. So
Okay,
there you go.
that makes sense.
But y'all got it. Congrats. And on to the next one. So, Robert, this one's about you. Robert Burridge is the lowest ranked, and so that's not the best in the official rank for that week, player to ever podium at an elite or major. And of course, that's not a dig. You only having so many events to earn that placement at. But Robert Burridge is the lowest ranked player to podium at an elite or major. So Ben, starting you off
Ben
here.
starts.
Yeah, he seems low enough ranked in my eyes. No, I'm kidding. He starts nodding like, "Yup." No, but I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go stat. I can't think of anyone else.
I'm gonna have to go with stat as well. I have 0 points right now, so I'm gonna say stat.
So
I'm gonna go
this
stat,
is.
huh?
I was just going to say quickly, it's based off of Stat Mando's official ranking. So you did have points going into it. I know maybe like others like UDIS or Disc Golf Pro Tour points may be different, but just to clarify there.
I'll say stat as well.
All right. Y'all leaving no room for chances to gain points here. This is another stat. Another
Yeah, give
star
better
frame for you
questions,
guys.
Kearns. This is your
Whoa,
fault.
whoa.
Come on now.
But
It's too easy.
okay. All right. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's not meant to be a dig, Robert. Of course, you had an incredible
impressive.
weekend. You were 296th entering this weekend. Of course, you had what was it, 3 Disc Golf Pro Tour events and a NPO Major entering this event. So only so many to get points off of. The next highest was actually Willie Prince from 2018 D-Glow. He was 161st entering that week. But all right, here we go into the final question, all tied up. Katrina Allen finished outside the top 10 for only the 5th time in her entire career from PDGA FPO events. So
Ooh.
Katrina Allen finished outside the top 10.
See,
for only
this is
the
a good
5th
question, Evan. There we
time
go.
in her career from all PDGA FPO events.
This is
And
tough.
Robert, we're starting with you for this round.
I'm gonna say stat.
Oh, is Evan gonna do a stat tonight? There's no way, right?
He sometimes
Evans
does.
If
can't do a stat.
only I thought about that.
I'm gonna go fiction. I'm gonna go fiction.
Ooh. Katrina Allen, she's been playing for a while.
Somebody is going to at least take the lead here, Ben. So which side are you going to be on?
You went stat maybe 3 weeks ago.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna go fiction.
All right. This is a fiction. It's actually only the 3rd time she has been outside the top 10 at a PDG event in FPO, being Des Moines Challenge, Throw Pink last year, and the 2018 Glass Blown Open were the only times it has ever happened.
That's actually
So-
wild.
Yeah,
That's
that's
very
impressive.
That's
Yeah,
stupidly insane.
Yeah, and Interesting thing, she's cashed in each one of those times that she finished outside the top 10.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well,
but-
give us a quick tiebreaker if you got one.
all right. So, I said a few of those. Let's go this. We saw Logan Harpool was the most recent kind of higher or lower ranked player to get a podium this year. What was his Statmando official rank going into that event when he finished third at Dynamic Disc Open? It's less than 296.
Is that how many players there are?
That's he would have just
Maybe.
Robert beat it is the point. So
148.
all right, and this is the closest to get to it with. It doesn't have to be without going over. Not prices right.
Yeah,
Who's the closest?
I'll just do. I'm going over, so I'll do 147. Or no. What is 149?
That's the under.
149.
Oh my goodness, Ben's being that kind of guy.
Wait, you said it's close. I mean, might as well. Whatever.
All right, Robert, you're not a part of the tiebreaker, but do you have a guess for what Logan Hartpool's rank was before that event?
I'd guess his rank for the event was like 102.
All right. Well, Robert would have won the tiebreaker, but it does go to Nick. He was at 128, so Nick, you're 20 spots away.
Did my best.
Good job, Nick.
But yeah, I mean, incredible all around. I mean, with how big the field's getting in, and it is pretty impressive. But Robert, I will say you moved up 228 spots in the official ranking. Got a lot of points from that second place finish. You're now 68th, so
Nice.
very respectable. So congrats on that.
Very
you.
impressed. I wish I could do that tomorrow.
Well, Benny, bring us out of the screen. Let's go back to the normal screen.
Boom.
And Robert, we've taken up enough of your time. Is there anything that we missed tonight, or anyone that you want to shout out before you head out?
I just want to shout out my sponsors, Innova Disc and Gorilla Disc Golf. You know, they've been with me basically my entire pro career, and the guys especially over at Gorilla, the small hometown shop in Houston. I think they also sponsor Lisa Fakis, Garrett Gerthy. You know, they're growing a little bit right now, and it's really good to see. And I was glad I could make a good showing for them.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, Robert, you seem like an awesome dude. Best of luck over at Worlds, and great luck, and we'll see you out there.
Thank you.
All right, drive
Catch you
safe,
later,
dude.
guys.
See ya.
Yep. Peace.
Oh, he did fast. He said, "See you later."
Oh yeah. Normally they stick around for a little bit. So
Yeah, they do.
yeah. Anyways, that was Robert Burridge. Incredible finish this last week over at Des Moines. And guys, we've talked about disc golf for the last hour and a half. Had an awesome game. I'm down in Nashville right now. I'm going to be practicing down here, hanging out with my girlfriend for a little while, and then this weekend I'm headed out to Emporia, Kansas for the World Championships. And I have excitement, and I'm also not super thrilled to play the courses that we're playing, but whatever. It's Worlds. I'm super excited
throw
to be
your
going
most
back and
overstated
compete at
Can't
Worlds.
have
is.
that attitude.
Yeah, I'm just excited to go back and compete at Worlds. You know, I'd like to do better than how I did last year, and that's kind of where I'm looking at it. Like,
Nick, you're a hucker. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
yeah, exactly. But anyways, last thing that we did want to do really quick is just thank one of our other sponsors tonight, DG Max Wax. They've been incredible to us this whole year. People have been hitting me up all the time. I see people out in New York, the tournament that I was just at, using the DG Max Wax, especially the little snap sticks. Go on to dgmaxwax.com, use code Nick and Matt. You get 10% off your order. It's incredible. It smells good. We talk about it every single week. Go check it out. Thank you all for being here tonight on the Nick and Matt Show. We're actually going to cut it out here and tell someone you love them this week. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all those fun things. We'll catch you in the next one.
Nick, you're awesome. Ben, you're awesome. Evan, you're extra awesome. I love you. See you
Whoa,
later.
Thanks, man.
Peace.
The Nick and Matt Show, a disc golf podcast designed for you, the disc golfer. Find the Nick and Matt Show on your favorite podcast platforms or join the conversation live on YouTube.